Happy Thursday, everybody. My name's Aaron Conant. I'm the co-founder, managing director here at BWG Connect. We're a giant networking knowledge sharing group of thousands of brands. We kicked this off about 6 years ago. It was a small group where we were working together to tackle the biggest issues that's presented across the digital landscape, but also help each other with service provider selection as a whole, who's doing the best things out there and who's working out the best for everybody. So we've grown to over 9,000 brands now, thanks to everybody who's participated over the past 6 years. We'll do close to 100 dinners and a couple hundred virtual events. So if you have any, topics or ideas, or you ever want to chat digital strategy, just reach out to me, Aaron, AARON at BWGconnect.com. As we kind of get started here, we're kicking it off 3 to 4 minutes after the hour. We'll wrap this up with a few minutes to go as well, just to make sure everybody has time to get on to their next meeting without being late. And the other thing is we want this to be as educational and informational as possible. So along the way, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A, or you can always email me, Aaron, AARON at BWGconnect.com. And for the email, that's literally during this call, tomorrow, next week, whenever you want to chat, you have any questions, shoot me over an email. We usually can kick that out to the group and get you a response pretty quick. So now as we jump into the topic for today, rethinking search marketing, we've got some great friends, partners, supporters of the network over at NetElixir. Udayan is, just absolutely fantastic. The insights that he's able to share with us. But Udayan, I'll kind of kick it over to you. If you want to do a brief intro on yourself and NetElixir, that'd be awesome. And then we can kind of jump into the content. Sound good?
Absolutely, Aaron. Thank you so much. Aaron, if you wouldn't mind giving me the screen sharing access.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Should be all set.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you. Thanks again for having me on this session. I mean, this is always a privilege from the entire NetElixir team. Is essentially representing all the good stuff that the team has been doing. And today's presentation, I think, is the third, Aaron, if I'm not wrong, in this series that we have been running over the last about 5 months, since our world was taken over by ChatGPT. So it's, I have really, it has been exciting, it has been crazy, and it has been just a different world altogether that we are living in. I still remember the first time we did this presentation, which was I think in the month of February or March, probably March actually, when ChatGPT and Microsoft announced their sort of a partnership and so on, and so much has changed since then. So I will quickly do an introduction about the company. Many of you have been regular, so great to see you all again. Thanks for joining in. I'll do a little bit in terms of generative AI and search, try to just break it down a little bit as well. Winning in the new search landscape, and just end with the concluding remarks as well. So very quickly about an introduction. I mean, we have been around. So NetElixir has been around, and it has been just an amazing time, almost 20 years, where we have literally sort of built ourselves into from a startup to one of the top 27 agencies for Google in North America, and it has been just a very humbling journey overall. We about 5 years back decided to invest in our building our own technology platform, which used vertical AI. Vertical AI is basically, we wanted to keep all the data confidential and essentially try to ensure that this technology works very well for our customers and only our customers, and we're not really sharing the data with any external AI platforms like, let us say, now it is ChatGPT and so on and so forth. So that's been driving a significant chunk of our growth as well, which has really, as I mentioned, landed us in the top 27 agencies for Google. We are also a certified minority business enterprise. We also have a program or an initiative. It's basically a wholly owned subsidiary called the Udayan Foundation, where we try to support some girls from the underprivileged background in India pursue their dreams of a better life through education and eventual employment. We currently are supporting about 24 girls. Most of them come from the slum areas in the city of Hyderabad, and many of them are single parent families, and there is no way that their parents can afford their education beyond the 10th grade. Until 10th grade, it's basically they have a subsidized education there where they study. And as a result of which, we found out something which was really concerning and deeply concerning, And that stat really sort of just blew me off, Aaron, that every 7 seconds, I repeat that, one girl under the age of 15 gets married away in the developing world. 7 seconds, a girl under the age of 15 gets married. So we wanted to do something about it, right? And this is our very, very small way of really trying to make a difference for some of these girls. So we are perpetually sort of really going ahead and moving forward, because a lot of the support from many of our clients, many of our partners, all of our team members, and well-wishers. So if you are interested in contributing, you can scan this QR code. It'll directly take you to our website, Udan. You can see the work that we are doing, and feel free if this is something that you are passionate about, helping these girls at least pursue their dreams, right? They need to get a chance. I'll really appreciate that. A little bit about me. I founded NetElixir almost 20 years back along with my wife. So it's a husband and wife combination running this company for almost 20 years. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my email address. Feel free to send me an email. I'm also very privileged to be an innovation fellow at the Columbia Business School. And I also do a fair amount of lecturing at the Johnson School of Management at Cornell, the City University of New York in Baruch, and the Indian School of Business as well. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to hear is going to be very professorial in nature. There is a lot of research that I'm going to have share with you. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to add to the Q&A or the chat box. We also have 2 polls where we are going to be giving out air tags for whoever sort of answers those poll questions the first, or gives the correct answers the first. Please feel free to add those responses in the chat box, specifically not the Q&A box, but chat box, because it becomes a little difficult to toggle between both of these places. Yeah. So about generative AI and search, and again, I don't tell me that I didn't warn you. I warned you that as a professor, I'm just going to use that hat and really just start with a poll and then a model. So my first question to you, I mean, we have all been talking about AI, and Aaron requested that can we really, Udayan, make it something that people are able to walk away with some tangible to-dos, right? So I just wanted to start with this one, right? So as prediction becomes cheaper, like predictions become cheaper as basically AI becomes prevalent, right? Anything which is launched initially becomes expensive, and then slowly the price comes down. Whether it is a Tesla, a few years back when it was launched, to Tesla variations now. So that's normally, I think, the case, right? Any technology over time sort of becomes cheaper. The value of what out of these 4, in your opinion, increases? I know it's a bit of a twisted question, and I'll lead it to a model as well. Do you think that as predictions become cheaper, is it human judgment which becomes valued even more? Emotional intelligence, instinct, domain knowledge? Any guesses at all? So I see D, B, A, B, B as such. So let me get to this. I think we already have the winner. The answer is A. So whoever answered A first, Aaron, I'll sort of let you keep a track.
Oh yeah,
that part as
well. Awesome.
Amazing, perfect. So this is a model which I really have, I think, introduced Aaron in some of our previous conversations as well. This, I think, is fundamental for anyone who wants to get into the basic economics of AI. So this is from a book called Prediction Machines, a simple economics of artificial intelligence. And what they do is, at the end of it, AI is accomplishing some task for you, or helping you doing some task as such. So when you talk about task, to understand as to where exactly AI is helping, you need to understand and break down the task into different parts. Elon Musk has become very famous for his first principle thinking. So think of it almost like a first principle thinking, breaking down a task. A task can be, I don't know, maybe picking up a cup, to writing something, to speaking. Everything can be broken down into different bits, right? You have to start with an input. There is a certain reason, there is a certain data file which you are essentially getting access to. Based on the input, there are 3 parts. The first one is prediction. So if you do this, this will happen, right? So you're able to predict, and that's where the prediction part comes in. In many cases, the prediction becomes simpler as you get trained. So as you have done this, I know if I want to pick up the cup, this is how it'll be, and so on and so forth. It becomes easy. It becomes almost like commonplace. And then there is a third part, which is the judgment. Judgment, just think of it in a way. there is an alternate way or an alternate solution to this particular path in many cases. So what the authors and the professor authors essentially argue, they say that as predictions become cheap, right? Prediction machines, that AI becomes cheap, and the value of predictions essentially goes down, because AI is able to point out and really map out all those known cases. It is able to even point out, even in the case of generative AI, as we have seen, known unknown cases as well, right? So that's where it just becomes easy. And then once it is able to predict, it takes an action or assists you take an action. There is an outcome, and then the AI learns. And sort of it becomes smarter over time. And the professors essentially countered that there is no way that in the long run, human beings can really compete in that cycle, right? Because just given the number of variants and the number of data points that the AI can access, specifically in the open web, I think it's very difficult to compete on the prediction, action, outcome, and training mode. But what they also feel is by letting AI really take care of this and making peace with the part that the prediction part, let the AI take care of it, you can really focus on the judgment component. And that's an important component. Judgment is the new path. Judgment is the new path which you probably did not have enough time to focus on, since you were spending most of the time in terms of this prediction, action, outcome, and training loop, right? Now that is taken care of by AI. It frees up time for you to focus on the judgment. So the professors actually countered that AI, as predictions really become cheaper or AI, the value of human judgment actually increases. And that's a very important component for you to think of and know. I know there are a lot of doomsday theories, Aaron, in terms of how AI will sort of take all the jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It will not take all the jobs. Let me just explain as to what my thought process is. It will probably change as to what are the things which are important, what are the new tasks will emerge, and new jobs will emerge. So it's going to do a shift. I don't think it is going to take anything. If at all, I firmly believe that AI will make us even more productive. It will really, really help our human ingenuity part really flourish even more. And I firmly believe that it will really lead to an economic explosion. I think McKinsey came up with this lovely paper last week, which says that generative AI actually substantially will lead to an economic boom by really getting onto those judgmental areas, those paths, which have not been really taken at this point in time by anyone pretty much. So that's where I wanted to start with this, just to quell any conversations or any doomsday theories. And this is just purely a personal
We've all
point
seen the
of view.
Matrix, right? We've all seen the Matrix, right?
That's right.
There's going to be harvested
Exactly.
for energy. Nice.
So it's a different world, and we really have to just have that mindset to accept this difference as such. So, but we have seen that artificial intelligence, as we used to call it, has really evolved as well, right? So I think the AI keeps on evolving also. And what really changed with generative AI was substantially bigger than what we had experienced any time earlier. I mean, in fact, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said that the AI that we are used to, let us say in Alexa or Siri, seems to be dumb, right? Obviously, there is a Microsoft angle to that, but I think it's more of a generative AI angle to this entire thing as well. So effectively, I think OpenAI, at least in my humble opinion, has been the biggest change force that our world may have experienced in a very long time. Earlier in my previous conversation with Aaron, I had shared that probably it can be compared with Netscape browser, which sort of essentially democratized this entire internet. It may be bigger just because if you notice, I mean, within the first 2 months, 100 million people had used ChatGPT, right? So we are talking about abnormal and explosive growth. So again, the question out here is, I mean, effectively, this is what it is. It has taken to a different level. How can we really capitalize on this? And I think companies are showing the way. I mean, this was the most pivotal moment on the 7th of Feb this year, when Microsoft essentially announced its investment, that it had made an investment in ChatGPT and OpenAI. I mean, it was very clear our worlds have changed forever from that day. I mean, we know as to, I think Google tried to counter that with Bard and unfortunately didn't really go very well. Bard, though, has come a very long way now, and so on and so forth. But I think that was the day when the worlds essentially changed. The reason why for our space, and getting the conversation back to search now, it really led to the emergence of a conversational search funnel, right? So this is essentially the new Google, what they call the generative search experience, right? This is the new Google page. And a lot of this, they were almost like forced to introduce this third dimension. The reason I'm saying third dimension, you normally in the Google page, you are used to scrolling down and really checking out all the links. But in many cases, in this case, there is a chat bot which is assisting you to answer your questions. Now, from that perspective, it really became a third dimension. And there were some very specific implications. And I think we will realize more and more the impact of some of these implications as well. But let me share as to some of these things with you as well, so that you get a bit of a context as to what you can expect to change in the world of, let us say, Google search or Bing search or Microsoft search and so on. Let me start with this fact. This was a Bright Edge research from 2019, and which showed that 68% of all the website traffic, or at least the trackable website traffic, is sourced from the organic and the paid search. So search engines still drive a significant chunk of the website traffic, right? The number may have come down a little bit, but I think still it is more than 65%. So 2/3 of the traffic is being driven by search engines to the website, right? That is how dependent your business is as an e-commerce company, direct to consumer, retail, whatever business you are in terms of Google, primarily Google, for traffic, search traffic. Now just consider this. I'll present to you two stats, right? The first one, pre-generative AI. So let us say last year this time, there was no chat GPT, nothing, etc. And it was, I think, a known fact that only about 18% of all the traffic which was searching for anything was really going to the second page of Google, right? Only 18%. So that means that 82% of the people did not really go beyond the first page of Google, right? I mean, who goes to second page? And effectively, I think there was this saying which sort of came up: the best place to hide a dead body is the page 2 of Google search results, right? Remember so that saying has been prevalent now. Now consider this: you have this chatbot assisting to answer many of your questions. I don't think it will really take a rocket scientist to understand the implication. This 18% unfortunately will drop. I mean, I would probably place a bet that maybe in the next year or so, this percentage of people going to the second page of Google may come down to even 5% or lower, right? 5% from 18%.
And that's because they're going to be interacting with the search engine in real time. Exactly. And there's no reason to go to the next page.
There is no reason to go to the next page, right? So you go to the next page mostly in terms of the research cues. You don't really go it as much to second page to buy stuff because all the ads are essentially thrown at you on page 1, right? So you do more of research, and that research provides Google an opportunity to monetize the page 2, page 3, and so on and so forth, right? And I think if you really, I sort of read this somewhere, I'm unable to quote exactly the source, but roughly about 25% of Google's revenues came from page 2 onwards, right? So page 1 drove about 75%, but page 2, page 3, page 4 till page N effectively drove about 25% of the revenue. Now, just a bit of a thought experiment, right? So what, in your opinion, would happen if suddenly the chatbot comes in and only 5%, I don't even know as to who this 5% would be, 5% are going to the second page. So understandably, the monetizable space declines quite dramatically for Google. What does it mean for you as an advertiser? Now, when we did a quick analysis, Aaron, and this is probably actually from 2021, for a word like buy flowers online or buy gifts online, there were about 4,600 businesses competing on a keyword like buy flowers online. 4,600 advertisers, right? And Google's big thing is by establishing a bit of a long tail, I wouldn't say long tail, page 2, 3, 4, 5, they were able to monetize all these pages and make money. Now, what is the point? I mean, why would you even go onto the second page, or why would you sort of be on the second page of Google at all, right? Because it wouldn't really get you traffic. So just think of the impact it would have in terms of inflating the cost per clicks or CPCs. Unless there is obviously another school of thought, which many of the search experts are saying, that Google will find out a way of monetizing the entire conversational search process, what they call the internet experience. I doubt that, because that itself would defeat the purpose. It's almost like me and Aaron are having a conversation. Suddenly an ad keeps popping up in between, right? That would lead to people leaving Google very clearly. So I think it's just too big of a risk at this point in time, in my opinion, for them to really start monetizing effectively the fully, I mean, as it is with the paid ads, etc., the search funnel. So it's an interesting situation. So again, what if a drop in monetizable real estate leads to significant CPC escalation? Thereby, I think of every search page as your whatever the first point of contact for your customer. I mean, Google has this concept of zero moment of truth, right? Where even before the customer comes to your website, they actually interact with your ad on Google, right? So that zero moment of truth, that's the reason Google search or search engine results page was so important. Now, understandably, the CPC goes up. I mean, you'll really be bidding a lot higher on the Google keywords, which again have gotten AI, so you don't really have too much of an option there, control there as such. And I'll tell you as to how we are trying to approach that. But the value of that search page may essentially, or search engine results page may actually get impacted because of this change. The second part is maybe this drop in terms of the monetizable real estate. So page 2, 3, 4, etc. Suddenly there is no point in advertising there. Makes search marketing simply unviable for small and mid-sized businesses. Maybe the SEO listings get pushed to becoming even more inconspicuous. Google has been anyway for the last 7 years have been trying to constantly push down the SEO listings. And definitely the rules for SEO will have to be rewritten. So there is a lot which is going on, right, at this point in time. But all of these are good things to think about, specifically because 65% of your website traffic is driven by Google, right? 2/3. So your business is literally dependent on Google. And that's the situation. And then Bill Gates made this statement last month, exactly a month back in London, that he says that eventually a top AI agent will replace search and shopping sites. And he said that currently it is unable to do that because it is working on data which is till September 2021, or at least ChatGPT is. But eventually, once we are able to merge this real time and this batch data, there is no reason why you really need to go to a search engine, right? It becomes maybe a simple app, maybe an AI agent on your phone that you just tap, ask a question, whatever it is, get them to buy or whatever it is, right? It's all moving as AI assistant. So it's a fundamental shift in terms of how you people search, and also for you as the advertisers, how exactly and what will you really advertise on as well. These are important questions to be in, and specifically I mentioned the reason 2/3 of your website traffic is coming from search engines, right? So you might as well do that.
I mean, you're not even going to be typing, right? It's going to be an audio interaction back and forth with the AI chatbot that's tied into real-time web.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. So I think it's just a very different world that we are going in. I mean, if you are interested, those who are interested in reading this further, I have 4 articles and we'll be sharing. I mean, if you want, just send me an email, send Aaron an email. My email is my first name, udayan@netlexia.com. Feel free to send me an email, send Aaron an email. We'll be happy to share these links, but it will be really helpful for you to really read these articles. I mean, I think one of the best articles explaining generative AI is written by Sequoia Capital way back in Jan. Sam Altman, again, the founder of OpenAI, the man behind this ChatGPT disruption. Effectively, this is more of I think the more humane part about what they are trying to do. Age of AI by Bill Gates is, I think, a phenomenal one. And we have written our thing as how generative AI is disrupting search as well. So feel free to go to our chat, the blog site, and just take a look at it as well. So this is an interesting situation. Now, effectively, how do you win in this new search landscape? So when we really assess...
Really quick, where are we at in this? Because I think everybody on the digital advertising side and e-commerce wishes this was pushed out a year, right? That it didn't happen so soon because they have a million other things they're trying to get on top of right now.
Right. No,
and
this
comes in.
Thing is like 4 months, 5 months old, right? So ChatGPT was launched in November last year, end of November, basically beginning of December. So it basically has been 6 months, effectively, right? 6 or 7 months. So all this is moving at a warp pace. And interestingly, I was listening to the Insider Intelligence podcast, effectively, they were essentially sort of sharing from Cannes, the advertising festival. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that there is just only 2 words we are getting uttered in Cannes, right? Advertisers, AI. AI is artificial intelligence. That's the only thing. There is nothing else getting discussed. There is no discussion about metaverse. There is no discussion, interestingly, about Twitter, despite all the controversies. There is no discussion about anything else. It's only AI. That's it. Right. So that is what I think the power of this rapid, explosive, I wouldn't say even hockey stick. This is almost like a vertical growth, Aaron, that we have seen. That is. And it is disrupting every industry. I mean, I can literally guarantee you that your industry is getting disrupted now. So that's the part, right? So effectively, we face the same challenge, Aaron, as well. Because as an agency, theoretically, there were two forces that we are dealing with. So already last year, I think this was in beginning of last year, when Google started introducing its AI modules, right? Like the Performance Max. I'm pretty sure many of you who advertise on Google are very familiar with Performance Max. Not everyone may be very happy with Performance Max, but it is the AI module. So Google said that we'll make this into an area where you tell us the results that you are expecting, or you tell us the goals that you have. You give us the audiences that we want us to target. You give us the initial creatives, and we'll do the rest for you. You don't have to bother about human intervention. Actually, you shouldn't, because that will disrupt your Performance Max models or algorithms. And thereby, it effectively utilized AI. And what has really emerged from this, now it has been about a year and a half that we have been working on the Performance Max. We were one of the early ones as the Google agency leadership member to get access. It is pretty much a black box, right? So you can't control anything other than the audiences. You can't control anything around other than the goals that you were setting, and specifically the initial account setup. And then you really do those, capturing that and just measuring that constantly. So it was fundamentally a game-changing moment, essentially. And we started working on that at that point in time. And now with generative AI, I think a lot of the stuff can be very assisted, right? So we had two choices. One is we didn't have an option as an agency. I think the classic obsolete agency model was obsolete. So we really had to reimagine this entire agency model. Because the classic search marketing where people sort of found out keywords, individually changed bids is all gone. And that's not coming back. I can guarantee you that. That's all gone, right? So you really at this point in time didn't have an option but to really look at it from an AI first perspective. You really need almost like a strategic marketers who can use the value of their judgment. Remember the first model I shared, the value of judgment, to identify the new path to grow your business. And what I'm going to sort of share with you, some of the stuff, I'll sort of share with you one of the very specific cases as well. If you do it well, and if you really have the right partners who have the AI technology and who really understand this AI first thing, and most importantly, who have been able to get rid of this old classical search marketing baggage, which may be sort of just pulling them down, you are able to get results which exactly justifies what I mentioned earlier, disproportionate outcomes. It's just huge. It's much bigger than what it is. The only thing is only about a decimal percentage at this point in time are able to figure it out. 99.9% probably have not been able to figure it out, right? And that's where the situation is. So again, getting to the point, Aaron, I mean, we're just at the inception part, but this is a fantastic time. In fact, I would say that argue that it can't be a better time. If you really have the right partner, your results or the outcomes that you are able to get out of Google advertising can be at a very different level that you may not have ever experienced earlier. So that's the part which we are seeing. But again, what we are trying to do, I'll sort of explain to you, because we literally had to disrupt our agency model. We had to almost like break down, disrupt our model. And this is what we did. We tried to use AI to do two things, only two things. The first is our goal was to do more with less. And the second goal was to boost ad campaign performance. That's it, nothing else, right? Doing more with less, so efficiency play. The second part is boosting ad campaign performance, right? The performance play and the performance impact. And I'll share with you very tangible stuff. And I would request you, I mean, this is what we have done. Doesn't mean that you need to exactly follow this, but I think there would be hopefully some cues which can really help you to think about this, utilizing AI, as Aaron sort of challenged me, essentially making it actionable a lot more. The first thing, we started off, remember our agency, Aaron, in 2004, right? And we started with paid search management. We now have really broken down the entire paid search management process, or paid media account management process. And we are saying that where exactly can we use ChatGPT to save on time or improve the quality of the output there as well. So we literally are just purposefully, collectively as a team, mapped out the entire account process, our account management process, and identified all the areas where we can use, I would say generative AI, because Mid-Journey is getting used a lot as well. Where can we really utilize this? So effectively what we had done is we have re-engineered our core process based on which our company, and as I bragged about a few minutes back with all of you, that we are in the top 27, we literally disrupted our entire model. It was basically day zero for us. And it was extremely important for us to really do that, to just not only survive, but thrive in this new world. So we really re-engineered the entire ad management process with ChatGPT. My question to you is, all of you are running very successful businesses and you have your own internal processes. I would request you to get the entire team aligned. That's something that I would really emphasize, getting everyone aligned, everyone in one group, and really get into this process of redefining the process. Because if you are not doing it now, I can guarantee you your competition is, or one of your competitors is, and you'll get left behind. And it will be impossible for you to catch up. Because this is, remember, a vertical technology. It's not even exponential, it's a vertical technology, right? Once the competition has done it before you, it will be really difficult for you to compete and sort of catch up. So that's, I hope that message, I think I can't really put it even any more directly or emphatically, is the key one that I wanted to. This is how we really disrupted our core business model, right? On which we had built this agency. So I'm pretty sure you can really start with maybe one of your, not the core models, and really sort of work into really building those success stories and then extending it across the organization as well. Whether it is merchandising, supply chain, every function, engineering, technology, everything, web development. So that's my first thing that we have done at Netlexer. And this is again the start of the process, Aaron, because the entire process, you really have to ensure that you are masking all the data, because you don't want to share anything with, let us say, Microsoft or ChatGPT and all the stuff. So you have to really invest in all of those technological processes, so build that walled garden. But this is really how you really build your own walled garden, almost like a data garden in which you can really operate as that. So first step. The second thing that we have done, we recognized if we are to help our customers compete in the first page of Google, right? Remember, I mean, 4,600 advertisers was something like buy flowers online, right? And 4,600, probably about 10, if you are lucky, 15, maybe 15 advertisers would be there on page one. And as we have seen in the conversational search in the next 1 year or so, maybe 6 months, no one will go to page two, right? So what is the point? So effectively, you have to be one of those 15 out of, in a cluttered category, like let us say flowers, gifting, like out of 4,600 to really play in the race. So we drew an analogy, and the analogy was, it was almost like competing in a Formula One race. And in the Formula One race, either you are in the race or out of the race. There is no in between. You most 100% cannot really ride a bicycle and hope to win the race. I can guarantee you will fail every time, right? So that's, I think, what the analogy here was. So either if you want to play on page one, you really have to be on the Formula One. If you are not, you're not playing on page one, period. There is just no discussion at this point in time. And that you can do to really extract the real value from this new AI-powered Google and AI tools like performance by right order. You really need the right AI tools. You,
So
as I mentioned,
if we go, so I'm just trying to like think about this as well. So as a brand, I'm advertising, I'm slowly going to see my performance go down. This is just reality. I can't, for a little while, it's going to be fine. It's going to get a little bit rocky, but slowly over time, it's going to go down. And the conversation is going to have to be with the executive team around why, right? Because they're going to ask questions. Why is it down? Why is it down? And the reality is the tools have changed. Completely. And that's the point. I mean, you really need to have AI tools that can extract the value from Google and Microsoft or whatever, any channel, let's say Facebook, whatever it is, Meta. Now, Amazon is sort of coming up with its own AI module that's testing, and it will probably sort of launch it out shortly as well. So without that, it's almost like riding a bike and hoping that you'll win the Formula One race. You will not. 100%. It's not like the bike was wrong. The bike was great for the longest time. But it is the where you are competing, I think you really have to be marginal, that the space, you were not competing earlier in that racetrack, the Formula One racetrack, right? You are competing probably in a velodrome where the cyclists are cycling. Right. But at this point in time, that entire racetrack has changed. It has become a Formula One racetrack now, right? And that's the key component. And to compete that, you don't have an option but to use AI tools. And that's where I think we have been very successful. I talked to you about this vertical AI tool that we have built, but now we have some proven success, and we are seeing it firsthand for our customers, Aaron. Whether we manage as an agency, full service agency, work with about 120 customers, or our customers are using this
as a DIY. They are using this technology because they have large in-house teams. But the impact is huge if you really have a vertical AI tool. The impact, I'll give you an example. This is essentially for a collection of our enterprise customers who are using AI. Again, a lot of people have been talking about the performance max doesn't work and all that stuff, the AI models, etc. We have made it work, and we have generated an extra 500K on an average for the enterprise businesses in 8 months, which accounts to about 2% of total search advertising revenue, just by using our LXR Insights, the AI tool, right? I mean, you can really keep on fighting that part, essentially. No, I can really do it manually. But sorry, you can't. You can't compete with LXR Insights. Just simple, you can't. That's period. I mean, they just know. There's nothing to really sort of just change. And we have really proven it time and again. Why you really need to have an AI marketing platform? It can be any, it can be, and we would love if you use LXR Insights. I'd be happy to really give you a demo and give you a free trial as well. But effectively, I mean, whatever, use an AI tool which can really extract this value from this new Google and Microsoft, because you're no longer riding a bike. You are essentially driving a Formula One race car. And that's what I really want to sort of really urge all of you to do. But there is one more thing, Aaron, that we have realized. And this is the third thing where we had to really go through a massive shift or a change in terms of how we really operate as an agency, right? This is almost like a rethinking the entire agency model for the future. And that thing was inspired effectively by a very interesting incident. So this was in 2003. And one day in 2003, the fate of British cycling changed. So what happened was, for the previous 100 years or 110 years, no British rider had ever won anything. I mean, they had won one gold medal in 1908. That's pretty much, I think, between that was, I think, what their performance was. It had gone so bad that bike manufacturers wouldn't even sell to the British cyclists in the fear of tarnishing their brands. Right? It had gone so bad. And at that point in time, I think the association there, they hired this gentleman called Dave Brailsford, and he was hired as a performance coach, and he was hired to put the British cycling on a new trajectory. The interesting part of what made him different from the previous coaches was he was focusing on what he called the aggregation of marginal gains, that strategy, right? The philosophy of searching for a tiny margin of improvement in whatever you do. So the whole principle came down to the idea, if you really broke down, right? We talked about the anatomy of a task. If you really broke down everything and just did a 1% improvement everywhere, he showed that in 1 year, 1% better every day gets you to 37 times better, while 1% worse every day gets you to almost like 0. And that's what we really have been at Netflix, have been really taken as almost like as our formula for success to really drive this culture of experimentation. So we are lucky. Again, our technology, we currently have 4 AI models built in. All of them are vertical AI models. So you're not really sharing the data with anyone outside your organization. So returning single buyers, returning next 2 months, we are able to predict the purchase value. We are able to predict as to when is your customer likely to churn, right? And we are able to build experiments constantly. Now, something about experimentation, Aaron, we are very big believers in this concept of deliberate experimentation. So when I say deliberate, I'm really focused only on improving those marginal gains, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not really doing experimentation just for the fun of it. I am really doing experimentation to help you get that 1% extra gain or benefit. And that's how we have been able to combine this power of AI and the human ingenuity to drive these aggregation of marginal gains through this process, which we call the deliberate experimentations or rapid deliberate experimentation as well. So that's where I think how we have been trying to rebuild Netflix as such, primarily because the obsolete, the classical paid search model, which we just was valid, very valid till about one year back or even 7 months back, is no longer valid. And we are seeing tremendous gain from that. I sort of shared with you the enterprise clients, 2% extra revenue is a lot of money. 500K in 8 months is a huge amount of money for the same Google ad spend without paying a dime more to Google. So I think I'll just sort of conclude by saying this conversational search is very clearly, not really is altering the search behavior forever. My question is, are you ready? You can't really win in this world unless until you have the right AI tools and the right application methods. But once you are able to crack that formula, you can really have a massive boost in that campaign performance. You should, as an organization, future-proof your marketing investment by remapping each and every one of your operating processes just to identify as to what are the potential AI application areas. We don't need the right thing, right? Just get started with it, right? The first draft. And the last part is the AI plus the culture of experimentation. I would say deliberate experimentation really has become the greatest source of competitive advantage in this new world, because Google and Microsoft and Facebook or Amazon, all of this would become a black box. So how do you really operate? I think you really have to have the right AI tools and really have to have this culture of experimentation as such. So I'll wrap up my presentation, Aaron, with the second poll. And again, anyone, please feel free to sort of add to the chat box. So British cyclist performance coach Dave Brailsford coined what was the term? What was the strategic term that he coined to really describe the value of small improvements? Please feel free to sort of add to the chat box. It is critical. I really wanted to emphasize this part. I see a lot of folks sort of putting in perfect. The answer is right. It's called the aggregation of marginal gains. And by the way, just one more thing, Aaron, which I wanted to really highlight with the team when I talk about marginal. So this is something which is extremely important. So what happened? What was the outcome? So it was interesting because during the 10-year span after he implemented this strategy, and this is, by the way, the British Olympic winning team led by now Sir Charles Hoyt, or Chris Hoyt, essentially, who sort of actually in the 2008 Olympics. They are considered now as the most successful team in the history of cycling history. So if you really get the formula right, 178 world championship medals and so on, right? And that's what I really wanted to explain this one, not only to emphasize the importance of experimentation and the deliberate experimentation and marginal gains, but also if you get the formula right. I talked about disproportionate gains, and what we have done for our client is just a small thing using LXR Insights, 2%. But if I keep on aggregating that 2%, Aaron, every quarter, it adds up to a massive number for me, right? And it becomes absolutely a disproportionate overall impact over the time span. So that's what I would sort of leave all of you with. Happy to answer any questions, or if anyone is interested in requesting a demo, one of our product experts would be more than happy to really schedule a demo for you. There is no cost for a demo. It's like complimentary. What I'm just urging you to do is, I think it's high time that you realize that you can't really ride a bike and still compete in the Formula One race. And you can really scan this QR code right here to sort of participate there. But that's what I really wanted to offer to all of the attendees today. And happy to really take any questions, Aaron, that you may have at this point in time. We are also have an event coming up, the X-Equals Experience. This is our 10th year now. And I think, Aaron, I have sort of discussed this with you. So we bring some pretty reputed professors or acclaimed professor. This year, we are getting Professor Sheena Iyengar from Columbia Business School and Professor Adam Alter from NYU Stern. Both of them came up with their new books last month. And it's a very small, intimate set of about 35, 40 people. 30 of them are probably CEOs or CMOs of e-commerce companies, leading e-commerce companies, and about 10 from the academic world. It's our way of giving back to the world of academics, which, honestly speaking, has given me a lot. So with that, I thank all of you for joining this. Let me see if we have any time for questions, but happy to answer that.
If you have questions, drop them in. One of the first ones that came in a little bit ago. You mentioned that predictions can be disaggregated. Can you break down disaggregate judgment? Great point. So essentially, I think it's just tasks can be disaggregated. So not predictions. So if you really, the anatomy of a task, the idea is the task has multiple components, right? One is the input. Input is the data that is sort of coming in. The second is that there are three broad components. One is the prediction. I already know because I've done this task before. I do this is the outcome that I can expect, right? So that's the prediction component. The second component is the training component. How do I know that if I do something, this will get to a certain result? Because I have been trained. My mind has been trained on that. So that's where the training component. The third component is something which gets, unfortunately, marginalized many a times, which is the component of judgment. In many cases, we don't think beyond the box or outside the box, right? The outside the box thinking, et cetera, et cetera. So that is more of the judgment part. So I'm essentially trying to say that the entire task can be disaggregated. And you really have to understand as to where exactly AI can function better than you. And we have to be humble enough to accept that AI can actually function better than us in the prediction area. While that frees up time to do something which no AI in the world at this point in time can.
which is essentially identifying those new paths, the new opportunities, the new ideas, the breakthrough ideas, right? As Adam Alter of NYU Stern calls it. So that's the part that I'm talking about. So it's not disaggregating predictions, it is disaggregating the task. And this is how we are trying to do that. Yeah.
The other comment is around, I think the media spend, where I think you can actually get smarter with your spend and where the money's going.
Yeah.
Right. As you're doing the analysis of, you can get to a better return on ad spend based on the categories and what you're going after and the customer that you're going after, right? Are they about to leave? Are they about to churn, or are they potential to buy, or low potential? Can we turn down that spend? You see AI helping out in that as well? Because I can see
100%.
AI helping with all the data crunching, but then the recommendations around, hey, divert 2/3 of your budget to this group, because
100%. So let me explain this, Aaron. So many of you would have read that the first party, Chrome is going to be deprecating the third-party cookies. And the first party would be eventually, as to what Google has actually even announced recently, that 1% of all the Chrome browsers would start deprecating the third-party cookies. It will be only a first-party environment from Q1 of next year, Q1 of 2024. Now, in this environment, I think this is a fascinating opportunity, and probably the best opportunity since the start of internet advertising, that you have gotten to build your own walled garden. And I'm just challenging you with something which may seem very radical. I think that if you are really progressive enough, if you really have the right partners in place, if you really have the right engineering mindset in place, you can actually build your own walled garden. And within that walled garden, you define as to how much, or I would say you define, let technology which is using your first party data define how much should you be investing on Google and how much should you be investing on Facebook or whatever other channels be, right? So it will really lead to a golden age effectively in terms of how you really do the media mix allocation. The reason I use golden age is primarily because currently the media mix modeling is based on very batched data. It is not done on real-time data, right? And as a result of which, by the time you are able to implement the recommendations of a media mix, what has been shared, that media mix may be irrelevant. Now, we believe with the AI combination and with the tools like Alexa Insight, that's what our holy grail is. We really want to build that smart digital marketing hub. And with that hub, you should have the control. No one else. It's your business. It's your money. So you really need to control it. How much money should be really flowing into Google advertising at any point in time, instantaneously? And how much money should be sort of flowing into, let us say, whatever, meta advertising, and so on and so forth. And that gives you power, because that gives you power to focus on just one thing. How can you make more money from the same investment that you are doing currently? And that's what I was referring to when I talked about getting a lot more from less or whatever. So spending the same and getting a lot more, essentially. That's the direction that we are collaborating with our clients to really get them to that future and get them be prepared for that first party future, which we believe, if you really get the formula right, very firmly believe, you can really build your own walled garden where you have a significantly more control on your destiny, rather than letting Google define whether it will drop you off and the SEO folks are working hard and suddenly your ad gets dropped off and all this stuff. At least give some control back to the advertiser in this case.
How should marketers start preparing to show up in AI in terms of site content?
That's a great question. I mean, show up in AI, I think one of the things is AI works on so many data points, like ChatGPT-4, I believe, uses about a mind-boggling, I don't know what was the number, 1 trillion data points or something, some ridiculous number, right? So effectively, can you really influence AI? I don't think much, but you can try. And at this point, everyone is figuring out. So in terms of, I think there is an opportunity for you to do two things. The first one that I would sort of highlight, Corey, is you can really use ChatGPT to read through your website and give you recommendations, because remember, it is your smart assistant, right? And then you can really use the same prompt and say that act as if ChatGPT is your customer, and whatever your customer, let us say it's a male, age group 35 to 44, income bracket this, etc., etc. So you act as if you are this customer persona, and now how would you really go ahead and interact or engage with the website? you'll be blown away. I can guarantee you, you will be blown away with the type of response it sort of comes up with. So that's the part which I think is really, really exciting in this one, right? You can really actually use it as a very smart assistant, probably the smartest assistant you can ever imagine to have. That's, I think, the first part. The second part is you can really go to find out what the customers are really looking for. I mean, I'll make a very broad statement. If you really look at the e-commerce area, let us say retail e-commerce area, Aaron, we have seen some very interesting statistics. Let us say we have a 100-page website, out of which probably there is a 90-10 rule, right? So 90% of all the activity happens on the 10% of the pages. It can really help you understand why it is happening on those 10% of the pages, but it can help you to also refine it down to the most fundamental, the first principle part, right? Get rid of all of the stuff that you don't need because no one is going there, right? Just because you're vanity and you're doing this doesn't mean anything, right? So it can really help you get down to that first principles very well by cutting through all the clutter. And that's, I think, a beauty and the important part that I really wanted to highlight. So these are two ways, Corey, that you can really sort of go in. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Last one, I think we'd have time to get here. How can product managers be better prepared, not project, but product managers be better prepared to operate optimally in this new AI world?
And that's a great question again. So in terms of the product management part, if you really look at the fundamental one, starts with, remember those user studies that we have those blind tests, user studies and user group studies and so on. This can really help you create the first draft for the user studies. In many questions, I have been a part of some product user studies wherein the questions were very trite, I'm sorry to be blunt, pretty, in many cases, senseless as well. So I think the first draft can be a lot smarter. You can ask a lot smarter questions, right? In terms of getting the first draft, because ChatGPT will sort of preclude and just get to the point very quickly. The second part, which again is important, is you can really draw up the customer persona very well. When I say persona, I'm not talking about only one, because no one really has one customer persona. So multiple customer personas, essentially. And really, we're going to really map out. And you can get down to what we call the principle of intersecting circles. So if you really have that Venn diagram, intersecting circles, what is that intersection point, which is that one thing which is common for in terms of the feedback or the preferences of all these different customer groups. And that one thing is something which will really help product management immensely in terms of hone down and build that particular functionality or attribute, or maybe double down and amplify that attribute very much in the product as such. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I see we're pretty much right at time here. And again, Udayan, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me. I mean,
it's a great partnership. And I encourage everybody, you like to know more about what they do, more about Elixir Insights, 100% worth a follow-up conversation. Taking a look at it, this AI space is changing the landscape faster than I think any of us had really hoped, but it doesn't matter at this point in time. We really have to tackle it. And so Udayan and his team are just leaders in this space. And again, thanks, Udayan, for your time today. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up. I hope everybody has a fantastic Thursday. Everybody take care, stay safe, and look forward to having you at a future event. Thanks again, Udayan.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
All right, we'll see you.